So what we're going to do is start out with a little video that we did to give you an overview of our project.
Hi, my name is Leonard Witt. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Sustainable Journalism here at Kennesaw State University. The ONA, the Online News Association, gave us a grant for their Challenge Funds for Innovation in Journalism Education. And our challenge was to tell real youth justice journalism stories, but to tell those stories in virtual worlds, just like here.
And I am Gwenette writer Sinclair. I am going to show you how we produced the stories in World by training the interns in World in avatar and immersive journalism skills.
I'm Christina Guerra, the student video editor, and I'm going to show you how I took these in-world stories and edited them into mini documentaries called Machinimas.
11 students from across the campus and across disciplines joined the project.
I'm Camille Moore.
I'm Claire Bohrer.
I'm Jackson Walsh.
I'm Ariel Greenaway.
And we are those students.
The interns created their JJIE virtual world accounts and came in World to customize their avatars. They worked their way through in-world exercises that taught them both immersive journalism and virtual world avatar skills so they would be ready to produce machinima.
We studied what other professionals were doing also in the immersive virtual world journalism space.
We started researching and reporting for our own story, reading tons of documents and interviewing people in the juvenile justice system like attorney Steve Reba at the Bartow Law Clinic at Emory University.
Everybody thinks that, if you're under the age of 18, you're going to be in juvenile court. But the reality is in Georgia, the age of criminal responsibility is 17. So in Georgia, once you turn 17, no matter what offense you commit, you're in adult court.
Our Machinima team used the journalists' research to build in-world sets and avatars, and then turn them into a machinima.
We're also looking at other techniques like Draxler Dupre's use of having real people mesh together with virtual world storytelling.
Here are some of our machinimas.
You are all charged with the offense of armed robbery. The indictment says that on the 4th of January, 1999, with the intent.
What's your effing name? And I said, what? And all I felt was, boom, the man hit me so hard in my face, he busted my nose and gave me a black eye with one hit.
Want to learn more about this great project? See our website at JJIE.
Okay, so Claire, maybe you can talk a little bit about what that program is like. We had 11 interns, etc.
Yeah, so I'm Claire Bohrer. I was one of the student journalists for the project. So as student interns in the JJIE Virtual World Project, we met every Wednesday morning for about 2 to 3 hours, and we just talked about the progress of the project and got together. And aside from those 2 to 3 hours every Wednesday morning, we had to spend 12 hours outside just working on the project. And so since all of us were from different disciplines, we really didn't know much about immersive journalism or virtual worlds. So the first 2 or 3 weeks were spent on really familiarizing ourselves with immersive journalism and virtual worlds. And then eventually we turned our focus to journalism. So we came across one story in particular. It was really interesting. This boy from 1999, he was incarcerated at age 13 for being involved in an armed robbery. He got 40 years in prison he didn't even have a weapon or anything. He was just there on the scene and involved. So along with this story, we got a bunch of documents from caseworkers. He was in foster care. So caseworkers, police reports, court transcripts, and we pulled apart all these thousands of documents, and we conducted interviews and went on road trips and really did some major investigative journalism. So eventually this story that was once just a bunch of documents really started to come to life in front of our eyes. And so our goal was to bring it to life to our audience as well, but in virtual worlds. So we relayed all of that information we got from our interviews and from the pictures we took. We relayed that over to our machinimist to actually put them in virtual worlds. So you can see the crime scene, the actual picture is on top, and then the virtual world replica is on the bottom. And then also the same thing with the people. So these are the 3 boars who were involved with the crime, and on the bottom are the avatars. And so throughout the entire project, I kept a progress blog, and you guys are welcome to check that out whenever you want to. It'll be up forever, I guess.
Okay, and so we built our project on the work of Nonny Peña, who's been working in this field for quite a while. Now I gotta be able to figure out how to get that. Give you guys help here. I can't find the little finder. Oh, there you go. So, oh, that's the wrong one. This one. Yeah. So Nonny Peña has been working in this field for a really long time, and this is the shooting that occurred with Trayvon Martin, very controversial case in the United States. This is totally built on the 9/11 tapes that were made, and she went and had them super enhanced, but everything you see here was really unfolding. Now it's kind of dark and it's light in here, so you can't see it as well, but she has also then moved on to cardboard Google viewers. And so she did a project on on domestic violence, and you're right in the middle of that domestic violence. So we've been building on her work. So hers is one way of, going out and so this is our own production then. I had been out months before this project began, and I happened to do a videotape of a guy on a panel talking about how he got smacked by a cop when he was 12 years old. And so we have taken this, it happened in Chicago at 51st and Ida. If you know Chicago, this looks a lot like a Chicago scene. And we went out then and reconstructed the story that he told. And in a minute or so, you'll be able to hear his voice. He's the narrator for this. And everything we've done in all of these projects are based 100% on the factual information that we received. And watch the camera angles on all of these things. This is really important because it's making like real cinema.
And the police drove up. My friend had a weapon on him. He ran. I didn't stick around. I ran too. I didn't have a gun on me, but I ran. And I remember
Check this angle.
Where I hit a small lot. On a small lot with some broken down cars. They did a lot of repair there. Guys in the neighborhood would work on their cars there. I got caught right there. I put my hands up, put my hands on the car. I remember the police catching me. He was out of breath. He was mad. And he said, the first thing he asked me is, what's your effing name? And I said, what? And all I felt was, boom. The man hit me so hard in my face. He busted my nose and gave me a black eye with one hit. I was like 12 years old at the time. This was a grown, giant man. His fist was so big that when he hit me, it covered both my eyes and my nose. And all I remember was that flash, and when he hit me, I remember blood rushing out of my face into the back of the car, and I was afraid, I was terrified. What can we do to help improve that relationship between children and the community and law enforcement? We need to first recognize that police officers are human. They're not perfect. They need help.
So this kind of fits into the New York Times op-ed sections, and they're visual op-eds, op-docs. It gives you creative opportunities, but with real voices.
But we need to recognize.
So the next one, go ahead. The next one that we're going to show is much more complicated because this is the story about Christopher Thomas. Now, when we went to the lawyer who you saw, Steve Reba, he handed us about 3,000 pages of documents that the students had to put together. It eventually turned in, they went out and did interviews and called people. It eventually turned into an 8,000 word first draft, and then second draft was 5,000 words. How the heck can you take something like that and put it into a machinima that's gonna be 8 minutes? So what we did, we used all the official documents. Every word on here is verbatim from documents from when he was 2 years old through the courts and everything else. And so you'll see how we were able to use their voices. Our students are reading, and a couple of our staff members.
The case manager received a call from Ms. Collins from foster parent support agency Georgia Youth Advocacy Program. She informed the case manager that Chris Thomas and Chris Butts were involved in an armed robbery at a pawn shop. The two other young men involved were older. The owner of the pawn shop was shot in the shoulder. Chris Thomas and Chris Butts were apprehended by police. Police believed the gun belonged to one of the older suspects. Thomas and Butts were taken to Regional Youth Detention Center and were charged with armed robbery and assault. Both boys were tried, charged as adults under the Senate Bill 440 law.
You were all
basically abandoned by his parents.
There are several people.
Then this is from a sentencing trial.
And I think she would like to address the court.
I'm just too full. I'll let my mom. I'm just too full right now.
okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Doris McCain. I would like to talk for all three of us. My
name is Cynthia Poole with the Baldwin County Department of
And these are
Family
various
and
people
Services.
who are in the court talking
Yes,
about
ma'am.
this thing, and then we would reflect
Just
back
briefly,
into
Chris Thomas
the,
has basically been in foster care about maybe 15, well, he's been in at least, I know, 15 places within the last 12 years. He first entered care on September 9, 1987, when he was 2 years old, and
visiting me at the time. They came in without any thought. My two children were standing in front of the store. My wife was standing next to me and I had a customer. He just walked out, pulled that gun, pulled the trigger. He didn't say a word, didn't say anything, didn't have a chance for nothing.
so that gives you a kind of idea what we did. The whole purpose of this thing is to show journalism schools how they can produce these kind of machinima themselves. And machinima is a short film, documentary film made in world. And now, Gwenette writer Sinclair, who's actually out here, I hope is going to talk, right? And
I'm going to.
this is how she dealt with our students the whole time. She is the expert in virtual worlds. I know about journalism. She never met any of the students in person. Everything was done on Skype and in world. So go ahead, Gwenette. Maybe you can talk a little bit about this bigger megaverse of what we're talking when we talk about virtual worlds and virtual reality.
Hello again. It's nice to hear your voices. So to explain a little bit about what our virtual world is and where it is, everything on the internet is part of the metaverse, from 2D websites to the virtual worlds described on this diagram. Is everything sounding okay to you folks?
Perfect. A little loud.
With financial sustainability and scalability as our goals, we used the free open simulator software to develop a user-created virtual world. Next slide. At our Welcome Center, visitors click through an avatar skills tutorial. Then using landmarks or a map, teleport instantly to destinations in world, like the Kid, the Cop, the Punch, Chicago neighborhood. Next slide. Using the virtual world itself as a 3D storyboard, teams in world can collaborate remotely in real time to develop the story action, scripts, and scene designs. Using the in-world build tool, you can develop buildings and avatars from scratch or import ready-made from thousands of free Creative Commons assets online. Developed scenarios can be used by production teams for multiple projects. You can easily modify buildings and avatars at any time, which maximizes flexibility for journalists to tell their stories and for machinists using in-world cameras to capture the action. Next slide. This 16-acre Chicago scenario offers an immersive experience for avatars visiting the virtual world neighborhood or role-playing a story character from a real journalism story. You can also develop smaller scenes, building only what your camera needs to record to tell your story. With complete in-world control over your content, your lighting, weather, avatars, cameras, including 360-degree cameras and 3D headset integration, the storytelling possibilities are endless. Next slide. So we invite you to create your own avatar, explore the JJIE virtual world, even produce your own journalism machinimas. Let us know if you would like a personal tour.
Yeah, and so these scenes, once you build them, it's kind of like if you were doing a cowboy movie, you know, and you needed a saloon and you needed a dusty road and all of those kind of things. We built the set the same kind of way here. We built the Chicago scene, but now it's built. So if somebody else wanted to use that, they could come in and use it and participate in it. The angles, you can change everything. It's exactly like shooting real cinema once you get that developed. You put your characters in there, you can have bots who work as kind of extras, etc. So that's our project. It was developed to help journalism schools think this thing through, and I think it worked really well. Fantastic student, Claire. If anybody knows for work in Denver, she's going to Denver soon, give her a call.